Hey there, welcome back. This is the third broadcast, whatever of, that I'm calling this, and me just talking to a camera and a microphone, sharing my screen. Today I thought I would just, we have a big thing coming out on Monday. We have a very big launch that took 18 months of work to design, implement, roadmap, build, whatever you want to call it, for this new release that we have on Monday. And, I compare it to as if I were, working for a nonprofit directly and I were building some capital campaign that I was ready to kick off on Monday with, a good marketing blitz, awareness, meetings, podcasts like this for the nonprofit. So it's Saturday, it's the calm before the storm, nothing is really out there yet, but then in 2 days' time, it's all going to be just laid bare for everybody. All that 18 months of work is just pushed out the door. So what kind of content would I be presenting today that has anything to do with, anything? I mean, what's so big deal about that? Well, I thought maybe just peeling back a little bit of the layer of a software company and then how it relates to nonprofit work, and some of the things draw some similarities. I sit in a couple of CEO roundtables, and one of the rules that we have is that we don't give people advice. We just tell our stories and let them speak to maybe something that resonates with somebody else and something they're dealing with. Telling the story of how this came to be. So, in 2014, we rolled out what was called ClickBid 4. Before then, ClickBid 3.7, just these arbitrary numbers, nothing really fancy about it, was a custom installation for every single nonprofit. So if I had, back then maybe 50, 60 nonprofits that were using ClickBid, maybe more, I don't remember, but I would actually create a subdirectory in our file system on our server, and every nonprofit would get an installation of our software. Now that may not be the easiest thing to understand, but imagine you getting your own, as a nonprofit and working with ClickBid, you get your own folder. And in that folder is a copy of our code. And, okay, well, I don't see what the big deal is, but if I make a change to the master code in its own kind of folder called master, I didn't make that code change on any of the other 100 or 50 events. So they're all using the old code, and maybe I found a bug. Oops, something didn't work right. Now I have to come up with a way to install it on every single one of those so that they all get the benefit of the bug that I fixed. And then try to support that with staff that don't really understand any of how that works. So I was in Florida with a nonprofit, an organization, and we were riding in an elevator, touring the stadium, and they said, Matt, listen, you got to knock that off. You can't have a custom installation for every single nonprofit. That is just not going to work. So what we had to do was create what we called ClickBid 4, and that was a single code base. So there was a folder still called master. All the code was in it, and every nonprofit used that code. Well, what's the difference, Matt? Why would we do that versus the other? And it's all about customization. When I was a web developer, I did a website for every nonprofit that I worked with. So they wanted this, I did that. And if another nonprofit wanted this, and I did that, or a video or whatever, everything was custom. But, back in those days, we were starting to see the emergence of software as a service. You could go online and use things like QuickBooks Online and, Facebook and all these other things. And it was all software that everybody used the same installation, but it took away the ability to let you change the look and feel. And I didn't like that. So why I didn't go to it until ClickBid 4.0 was because I wanted every nonprofit to say, oh, can you make this button move up here? Can we change this feature? And can we add a couple pages to this and to that? The problem is, if you want to ever grow beyond maybe 50, 75 organizations, you're going to either have to have an enormous staff of people to support that, and therefore a ridiculous price tag, or you have to standardize it. Now, here in 2025, we all know this outcome. We've been down this road for so long. Nobody has that kind of old school platform anymore. Some platforms like Facebook or WordPress or Joomla, they try to give you an enormous amount of customization, but what ultimately happens is as a user, you end up getting lost in all the customizations and you just end up settling for something, and it never looks quite as good as what you saw when you bought it. And so, when 4.0 came out, that really limited that. We gave people the ability to customize a few things here and there, but even that was really complicated and hard to use. What we've learned over the years is that people just want something simple to use. The classic example that I give is, MySpace and Facebook. When MySpace came out, you could design a page that had this like obnoxiously loud music playing as soon as you went to it, a rainbow cloud blended background with yellow text, and some of it would blink, some of it was bold, some of it was underlined, some of it would spin around in a circle, and it looked like somebody microwaved a box of Crayola crayons, and that's what your website looked like. And so Facebook came out and said, none of that. We're not doing any of that. We're creating this page that everybody uses, and all we want people to do is get information out of this site. We don't want people to have some crazy, hard-to-read site that nobody can use. And it took off, and people realized that, you know what, yeah, I can express myself over here in like some, Flickr or something like that, back in the day. But I'm going to actually like be functional in this, Facebook page. And it obviously blew up into, what Facebook is today. And despite how you feel about it, it's one of the biggest, most popular websites on the internet. And so really proud of 4.0, but that was 11 years ago now. So 18 months ago, almost to the minute, we hired a designer to come in and just say, listen, we need this thing to look better than it is. The technology is based on stuff that's 10 years old, which is like an eternity in tech world. But then we did something I think kind of cool. We hired the designer that did the original design in 2003 when he was like, 16. Not really. He was maybe 17 or 18, but he was very young at the time. And now he's, he runs his own graphic design company. And so we hired him to say, listen, make this what it would need to look like today to be just killer and awesome. So he did that, and then we built specs and scopes, and we put this whole thing together. And then we said, okay, Marty on our development team, an incredibly gifted programmer, who manages, this is funny, like he uses his MacBook Pro. This isn't it. I didn't steal it from him. I have one. And this is what he built it on. He built the entire virtual venue on a MacBook Pro. Now, I'm not saying that because, why am I saying that? I'm saying it because it's just shocking. The amount of code, I think it was, what did we say, 66,000 lines of code, was added to the platform. And then, over 1,000 pages were modified and updated and so on. And he did it all from this laptop. And it's just remarkable. And, we have an incredibly gifted team of people in our development team. Marty, Kyle contributed to an enormous amount of code too in the platform that we're rolling out on Monday. And then our QA team spent months, not weeks, months, clicking every button. We call it a full admin test or a full regression test. And that means every single thing that you could possibly do in the platform gets done by one of our QA team members and documented so that we can say, hey, this doesn't really do what it's supposed to do. It's doing this instead. And so it gets rolled up into this big, crazy release 18 months later. And what I'm hoping for on Monday is nothing fantastic, really. When you roll out a big release like that, you really want something to just kind of come out and just feel like it's natural. Everybody on your team, inside our organization or inside your organization, is already used it, played with it, tested it, created help files, built everything around it, and made it really awesome. And it's ready to go. And so it's nothing new and crazy when it happens on Monday. Now, whenever you roll out new software, much like if you're rolling out a new capital campaign, it's impossible to dot every I, cross every T, put everything in the right context. You have to put it out there and let it get dissected by the masses. And so otherwise, then you're waiting too long, and you could be effective sooner if you were willing to put something out there and continuously revise it and make it great. The trick is finding that line of saying, okay, everything to the left of this line has to be done before we put this to the public. Everything to the right of the line, we can probably get done in the next month or the next 2 weeks or the next N number of days, and everything is just going to be fine. And as long as we put the resources in place to make that happen, then sure, we'll make it, we'll be fine. And so that's what we did in our system is we said, okay, there's a line that we're drawing and saying all of these things have to be done. Being able to search by this thing and being able to set up new events and being able to change, a primary color and some of those things, whatever that list is, it's not really important what the actual 800 line item list is, but there is a list that exists on the right-hand side of that line that isn't done yet or is being worked on and won't release on Monday. And that's something that really kind of, hit me as we were putting this together. I see the software and I think, oh, we got to fix this. We got to do this. Boy, that looks kind of weird. We should fix that or do that. Or I have a whole laundry list of things, and I've started to compile it and give it to our team of incredibly competent developers and QA and management. But I'm also willing to say, okay, let's just go with this thing. Let's get it out there because it's time. And, when I'm thinking about some of the volunteering that I'm doing at nonprofits and some of the campaigns we've done, at my son's school to build a playground or to start raising money for carpet or scholarships, what's important is that we get it out there. We draw a line and we say everything to the left is required, everything to the right we'll continue to work on. Now, in that to the right section, it is really important that you dedicate the resources. Let's say on Monday that we launch this code base. Marty pushes it, which only takes a few minutes. It propagates across all our networks and everything. And then he goes on vacation for 2 weeks because he's like, listen, I just put in the last 9 months of my life in this code. I'm going on vacation. Well, that would be bad. Sorry, Marty. That would be bad. What we need to do is say, hey, yep, Monday is just a date on the calendar on the stages of being done. We don't see done with our virtual venue until June, July, when we've gotten enough traction underneath it, thousands of events under our belt in this new platform. Because for better or worse, our old platform, our legacy that we call it, has tens of thousands of events that have gone through it, and we know it can be beat up and hammered on endlessly and not have a problem. Now we're going to go for the next 6 months, and we're going to do the same thing to the new platform. We've learned a lot in those 10 years, so we put all that knowledge into the new platform. So we're a lot further ahead than we were. And that's also a good story to remember. A good point of that is that, when you put out product, when you put out initiatives, when you put out fundraising campaigns, you get better. And you say to yourself, okay, we're going to do this first campaign. We need to raise $5,000 for a scholarship. Well, the end of that $5,000 campaign is a date in the calendar on a journey to doing something else. That is not the end date. The end date is further down the road when we do a capital campaign to put a new roof on the school because we're sick of having buckets all over the place to catch the water when it leaks. Or the carpet's getting torn up and we're just constantly duct taping it to the floor. That is further down the road. But we can't go right to that tomorrow. We have to take steps. And so that's one of the things that really kind of resonates when we roll out this new platform is it's teaching me that, hey, as I get older, and I'm not young anymore, like I was 23 years ago when we designed our first version of ClickBid, now I'm being able to kind of pull myself back and be involved with nonprofits more and help them grow. I'm looking at it the same way, is that, we're going to have a version 5, 6, 7 down the road with this nonprofit. And what that means is we're going to have fundraiser 5, 6, 7, but let's do the first one. Let's do the second one. Let's do the third one. And know that the first one is only going to be so good. Then the second one's going to learn and be better. And the third one and the fourth one. So my calendar isn't just the end of the line on that first campaign. It's way further down the road. It's, hey, let's cut our teeth on this one, and then we'll get a little bit better on the next one, and so on. But what's important is that we make sure to allocate those resources in the coming months after the first campaign so that we don't let off the gas. Sure, take a day off, take a breather, catch your breath. Except for you, Marty, you are not taking. You get to spend the next 4 months with me, sitting in, improvement land and refinement land. So anyway, if you're watching this, sorry, I'll buy you some coffee or some coffee shakes. But anyway, you're setting that plan so that you can tell your nonprofits, you can tell your constituents. In our case, our nonprofits, in your case, the constituents that you have, listen, give us some time. We're going to put this thing out there. Give us some time, and we're going to continuously make it better over time. So that's, I don't know, hopefully that's informative to somebody. When I look at if a nonprofit is watching this saying, why on earth did you put this out there, Matt? You just spent 18 months going backwards. Well, but we did this to modernize, to simplify, to clean up, to make better, to make more universal, to use the latest technology. And Monday is not the day that we judge the success of our platform. June, July, August is the day that we look at and judge the performance of our platform once we know it's been tested, it's been kicked, it's been put through the paces by our nonprofits. And we have been there every step of the way, sitting, watching in real time, and perfecting and tweaking in real time. So hopefully, that's a little bit of a sneak peek behind the face of a nonprofit, or not a nonprofit. I'm looking at a nonprofit on my screen. This is, me looking at, this is you looking at a software company, is what I meant to say. Good grief. That was apparently a very difficult thing to say. Peeling back that layer of how things get built over here in ClickBid. But I'm so proud of our team. I think they've done an amazing job. I just love what they did, and it's all the passion that they have towards nonprofits. So I hope you get a chance to take a look at it, kick the tires, and give us your feedback, and know that the feedback you're giving goes right into discussions for how we're going to improve it, not next year or later this year, but right now. Constant improvement with dedicated resources. So anyway, have a great morning, afternoon, evening, and hopefully we'll see you in the next podcast.